What's holding you back? Holding you back from touching the sky? What's holding you back? You gotta fly like an eagle and go high. What's holding you back? Holding you back from touching the sky? Oh, holding you back. You finally gotta reach for the sky. I was born to succeed, not to be a spoke in the wheel. Told myself there's more to this than just waking up when I feel. So I made a commitment to turn my earnings up. Couldn't see myself as an employee that still couldn't. Looked in the mirror, saw a spark in my eye. Knew I had to hustle and stop living a lie. I packed my dreams in a suitcase, took the first train. I'm headed for the horizon with success is no doubt.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of What's Holding You Back. Yes, it is so good to be with you all this evening, and we are very much looking forward to the conversation we are going to have today as we're going to be talking about, does it seem like you and your partner are sometimes speaking to one another in a foreign language?
Oh, wow.
So, go ahead.
This is awesome conversation as we're coming into the home stretch of August.
Yes, yes.
August. Now, next week will be September, the first broadcast for
Mhm.
September 2025. And it looks like we're wrapping up the summer quite nicely with communication.
Yes, indeed. Yes, a very key point. And we are going to get into this discussion in just a few minutes. But before we do, we always like to start off with giving a recap from the previous week. And although we missed you guys last week as we had some other engagements that we had to tend to, so we were not able to do the broadcast last week, but we look forward to making it up this week, this
Mhm.
Wednesday, with this broadcast we are having today. And I hope it will be very intriguing, shed a lot of light, and add a little laughter to the situation as well. So, yes, we are very much looking forward to this conversation. And as you are joining in, please leave a comment. We would love to acknowledge you and welcome you to the broadcast. And we're looking forward to having a wonderful time in just a few minutes. We're going to only be here 20 to 30 minutes. So we hope, unless we get a little carried away. And yeah, if it goes beyond, then so be it. But yeah, we're looking forward to having a wonderful conversation, and we want you to engage and be a part of it as well. Right, Christine?
Absolutely. Welcome once more to everyone who's watching on YouTube. We are excited to just go ahead with this conversation. It's definitely you time as we talk about
Yes.
partners and language and well, how you're going to translate.
Yes, translation is a very good word, I must confess. So, greetings, Pastor Fred. God bless you, sir. Always good to have you with us here on
Nice.
another edition of What's Holding You Back. So, yes, as you're coming on board, please leave us a comment so we can acknowledge you and welcome you to the broadcast. So, family, as we always like to do when we start off the broadcast, we always like to start with a word of inspiration,
Oh,
a
yes.
word that is in alignment with the topic of discussion. And for today, we're going to bring up this slide with our inspirational word. So, Christine, if you will.
Absolutely. We may speak in different tongues,
Mm,
but we are united by the universal language, which can tell, which can which we can all speak fluently
mm,
if we only allow others to
ourselves.
open, if only we allow ourselves to open our hearts to others. We all speak the language of love. Wow.
Yes.
Well, once more, we may speak in different tongues,
Hmm.
but we are united by the universal language, which we can all speak fluently if we only allow ourselves to open our hearts to others. We all speak the language of love.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We want to thank the contributors of this quote. It's by Suzuki.
Yes, yes, yes. I really enjoyed that quote there. That universal language of
Hmm.
love, the language that we all can understand. And that is the key factor when it comes to having good relationships, as we're
Mhm.
piggybacking off our discussion from the previous week, in which we talked about how to build and maintain strong relationships. So, in continuing on with that theme, we're talking about today, if your partner and yourself seem to be at odds, like you're speaking two totally different languages to one another. So we're going to talk about that and try to bridge that communication gap and see what we can do to remedy any situations or conflicts that may arise. So
And
let's go ahead, Christine.
no, I was saying that we also going to have some takeaways of
Oh yeah.
why is it important and how that actually holds you back. I mean,
Mhm.
as you're speaking about partners, I'm thinking, business partners, right? Because we talk about business a lot on what's holding you back from developing your dreams. You could be dreaming something and thinking one thing, and your partner, your business colleague is thinking totally different.
Right.
So I would love for everyone who is tuned in today to think about what does that mean about the universal language and love? Is it just romantic relationships, or can that be other relationships like business relationships as well?
Sure. Sure. Yeah, it doesn't have to be uh, uh um how should I say it, a relate.
Matrimonial, husband and wife.
Right, right, right. There's different types of love, as we learn in our Bible studies. The agape love, the unconditional love, the love that we have for
Mhm.
our family, our loved ones, our kids, our siblings, our very close friends. That's that universal love, unconditional love that we share with those who we have deep emotional ties to, and it's a great bond, a great feeling, and we need to express that in every way that we can. And most people are not ones to really express it verbally, but they'll express it in other ways, how they
Oh,
just may embrace you or just want to be in your presence,
oh wow.
want to conversate with you.
Mhm.
It's just everyone has a different way of expressing love. And when they say it's a universal language that we can
Yeah,
all understand, yeah, when you see it, when you feel it, you can recognize it. You know, that's love.
that's
That's
love.
yeah.
That's powerful. That's very powerful. Let's get into today's discussion with everyone about now the language when you're speaking English and someone just speaking French, right? And you want to that's a barrier that's going to prevent you from going forward. And just
Yes.
if imagine you're cooking and you have to put some ingredients together, that's going to make a really hold you back from eating on time, if at all. um, what's the feedback and what inspired this conversation? By the way, for those who are just joining us, my name is Christine Allen from Clear Ambitions, Mentors and Speakers, and we have also my co-host Rob McCrae from Business Building Network. We're happy to have you. Please remember to like and share this broadcast because
Yes.
it's a universal language that we're talking about. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, what inspired this particular topic was just based off of the theme from the previous week, talking about building and maintaining strong relationships. And we all know that the key to having a good, strong relationship is having an open line of communications.
Okay.
Sometimes within those communications going back and forth, we have some little hiccups, so to speak, and we
Hmm.
have some issues which may be verbal or they may be
Hmm.
just a vibe that we get, the cold shoulder,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
facial expression, you know. So yeah, it's all different type of things. So when we say, does your partner seem to be speaking in a different language? It doesn't have to necessarily be verbal. It can be just be that body language and that.
Wow. And
Yeah.
and and that really spills over and sometimes to the rest of your day. Event like if it happened over coffee in the morning and you
Mhm.
kind of got the cold shoulder or you have a disconnect. That's something that can hold you back for the rest of the
Oh,
day.
yes, it can really turn your day off for the worse. Yes. So yeah, you have to, you know, kind of reset yourself, get
Mm.
yourself in a mental state so you don't have that carryover and bring that into your workspace or carry it on to the rest of your day. You don't want to bring that negative energy with you, and
Oh
it
wow, that's a tough one.
yeah your day and everyone around you. You have that negative energy and you're just mad and angry, and everyone around you like, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with Christine? What did I do to her? It's just like, it just might be having a bad day or had a bad encounter, and we
Bad encounter.
get over. Yeah, yeah.
That's a tough one. Are there any tips you can share with us?
Mm,
How do you separate that, close that door in your mind and focus on other things throughout your day? Because that ripple effect is real,
it
right?
is.
And then it's a miscommunication. You
Hmm.
got a miscommunication with somebody at work or, you know, thinking that you gave them a look when you really didn't. You were just
Right,
staring
right,
into
right.
oblivion
Yeah,
because you're still thinking about what happened hours ago. And we're talking today about partners and partnerships. Now, I'm sure the first partnership and the most, significant one in your life is the one you have when you're married. It could be a situation where you have a friend,
hmm,
right? A close friend. If you're not in the age that you're married yet, you have a close friend, but there's a disconnect. There's something going on. They're speaking another language now. You do have international communication as the world is shrunk by AI and by, um, in Google. I think they got what's that Google Interpreter or Google Translate, right?
right.
So if you literally folks that are going out on dates and you're going on a date with someone that speaks another language, they exchange students have it all the time. Google Translate can go to Germany, go anywhere, Spain, and get through. But we're talking about real communication, whereas even you're meant to be on the same page, and there's just a disconnect there. And when you're speaking about language, Rob, I know you spoke about the obviously the um, language when it comes to speech. We talk about the language, the body language, and conveying there. But when you're speaking about the barriers, um, and what can you gain from having breaking down those barriers? Like, why bother? Like, what's in it? You know what I mean? What's in it for the person to make that effort to break down the barriers? Yeah, what's the upside of that?
A great upside, because when you, well, let me first give greetings to my wife. She just tuned in. Blessings
Hey.
out there. Thank you so much for joining us as we're having this discussion this evening about the language. As like sometimes we feel like we're speaking in two totally different languages. So
Oh,
yes,
wow, that's awesome. Hello, Mrs.
yeah,
McCrae.
yeah. She must have heard it in the background. Like, yeah, let me jump on this and see what they talking about. All right, but yeah, as far as breaking down those barriers, yes, we have to,
Mhm.
because like you said, it can be a ripple effect, and it's going to carry over into our the rest of our day, and you don't want that. So we have to break that barrier down, try to find that happy medium, find that good place in our heart, right? Find
Mm,
that place where we can find peace and restoration and get back
mm,
into that mindset so we can have that to hold on to and carry us throughout the day, so we don't bring that negative energy, that negative vibe into the day and into the workspace. So yes, we definitely have to break down those barriers.
And how about just moving forward with goals? If there's a barrier on what your goals might be, and versus what your partner be, your business partner, or even again your spouse, and there is definitely a language barrier. And we spoke one of the earlier episodes this year in 2025 spoke about the language of money, right?
Yeah.
How do you treat money, which is a huge part of all relationships, especially business relationships. And
Yes.
I think that's the biggest, when I think about the why,
Hmm.
why bother. um, you could I've heard of, or seen situations where you're both speaking the Queen's English, they say, and there's still a barrier. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So when you have a situation where the communication is just, when do is there a point where you say, well, you know what, let's just go our separate ways, let's agree to disagree, because you're bumping into the same wall.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to change the subject because, like you say, if you keep bumping your head against the wall, you're gonna have a major headache coming up.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
you
true.
definitely don't want to put yourself in that type of predicament. So it's best to change the conversation and try to come
Hmm.
back to it at a later date and time if you don't feel like you're making any progress with that particular conversation. But let me ask our audience as we are having this discussion here when it comes to the communication gap and having some type of disagreements. So, when it comes to having some difficult conversations, are you one that is a straight shooter who's going to speak directly, or are you one that's going to speak more indirectly and try to sugarcoat things and kind of dance and beat around the bush?
Mm, that's
Christine
a great
Houston.
question. You
Hmm?
want me to start first?
Sure. Ladies first.
Well, well, I always try to lead with kindness and
Hmm.
diplomacy. That's
Yes.
when I'm not upset.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard. I've
But
heard.
well, I don't. Okay. Okay. So what you heard, I won't ask you that question because I want to hear the answer. So I won't bother asking what you heard. Um,
Right.
but if I'm upset, first
Hmm.
of all, um, yeah, I switched dialects, so it's no longer
Oh.
English. and and yeah, straight shooter. So not only would I expect you to figure out what I said,
Uh-huh.
but to read and then how I said it, right?
All right.
So,
So you're a straight shooter when you get angry.
oh, if I yeah, if yeah, if you get me to the point where I'm upset,
Yes.
I'm just like, there's no room for interpretation. So
Ooh.
if there is, call for diplomacy, still leading with integrity. I'll break it to you gently, as a songwriter would say, right?
Okay.
Um, but or if I'm upset, then just
It's
I'm
coming
good.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming out. And so it's not coming out like in a, I would say, not a rude way. I don't use profanity, but I'm
Right.
telling you straight.
Yeah.
And so that's it. So I think that I'd rather not communicate that way because I don't like getting angry or upset.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and if you do get me to the point where I'm upset, then I probably don't want to talk to you anyway. So tell you what, I gotta go.
Yeah. 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 Cut it short.
Cut that
Uh,
short. So it's interesting. It's interesting because emotions have a lot to do with communication as well.
it does. It
It
does.
does. Yeah. Yeah, it does. So some out there says she's a straight shooter. Mrs. McCrae is a straight shooter.
Yeah, no question about that. Yeah,
Okay.
she's straight shooting 24/7. Yeah, it's coming out.
Rain or
Make
shine.
way. Yeah, make way. It's coming.
Rain
So
or
yeah,
shine.
for myself, yeah, I like to be a straight shooter as well.
Hmm.
But like you say, sometimes we let our emotions get the best of us, and then it can become not an so ideal situation. So we have to be very careful to not let our emotions overtake us when we're having these conversations or disagreements. You need to take a time out, mellow out a little bit,
Hmm.
think about think about what you're saying and how it's going to affect the other party before you just spit it out. Because once you spin them, you disseminate them words out of your mouth.
Oh yeah.
There's no taking them back. You can't reverse it. It's
Can't
out there.
reverse it.
Yeah. So think
Mhm.
very carefully before you speak.
And there is, there's something that, of course, I had to really study something called emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
And when you get to that emotional maturity intelligence, where you choose your response, and
Yeah.
so that comes to a level, even when you are upset, you still choose your response, um, and if you have an opportunity, if you have an opportunity to make yourself be known, make your point be known
Mhm.
without hurting the other person, or just saying, "Hey, this is my point." Respectfully, I hear you what you're saying. Um, any emotional intelligence would just say, this is how I feel. I respect what you're saying, and you kind of switch the subject. But what I'm thinking is, this is when you s- are you s- this is when you speak the same dialect, when you
Mhm.
speak the same language, you coming from the same stream. If you have a language barrier, sometimes, I don't know, not all times, but don't you think that would be hard to argue with someone who you really have a language barrier with?
Well, that could be most beneficial because they don't.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't understand.
Uh,
They don't understand what you really said, and it's not going to impact them the way that it came out. So
Oh,
could be to your advantage. Yeah. So yeah,
mm.
I totally see what you're saying with that. Yes.
So
Mm.
certain gestures,
Well,
or
not
even
so much the gestures, but the words. If they don't really comprehend the words, then they were like, "Huh? What does that mean?" And then you can dress it up. Yeah, you can dress it up, so to speak. This is what
it's
I said.
this is what I said. This is what I meant.
Yeah. So like Christine, you're
Mhm.
Jamaican, and brother Tim is American, correct?
Mhm.
So he might not understand all of the patois or the words that you use. You know, when you get into your emotional state, and so when you blurt it out, he like, what you call me?
That's hilarious. And
Yeah.
and that would be probably, that is true. I rarely does he understand Jamaican dialect, and
Okay.
rarely does he hear it, which is a good thing.
Uh,
Which is a good thing. And I think that when it comes to it, just again, culturally, we speak English,
right. Right.
but then the barriers in the culture sometimes to overcome. So it's interesting, this conversation, because what's holding you back in this communication, when you said, well, what do you do when your spouse or your partner speaks a totally different language, than you do, and
Hmm.
how does that hold you back? And it's interesting, the opening quote spoke about the universal language of love, And there are a few movies that talk about um, folks falling in love with each other and they're from two separate parts of the world and they fall in love with each other.
That's
So the
right.
universal language of love, because let's talk about that. Um, how do you express that?
In so many ways. I mean, just your personal interaction, your body language, uh, the feeling that you get when you're around that person, that individual, just
Mhm.
that warm feeling in your heart. You
So
know,
you don't need to speak.
no,
Universal language of love doesn't require
I don't think so.
audio.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Audience, you say what? Does
Universal
the
mhm,
universal language of love need to be communicated, or is it something that is just
doesn't need to be
felt?
verbalized.
Doesn't need to be verbalized.
Hmm.
Audience, you say what? Does love need to be verbalized to be felt? I think that's a good way to phrase it.
Or communicated. Now you could I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
know. I've seen it where folks would be like, um, and of course I'm speaking about movies, but nevertheless, a guy would ask the girl out and she'd be like, no. And he'd be like, but I thought, you're winking at me or you're sending me the vibes.
Right.
What do you say about that?
Um, I mean, it could be something to it. Maybe it was just he thought he saw
Miscommunication.
something that he didn't see, or he wanted to see.
So you still stick that universal love does not have to be verbalized.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Hmm.
Greetings, Sister Yvette Bolden from Bold Nutrition's Consulting. Blessings, my sis. So good to have you with us. So yes, we're having this discussion on do we sometimes feel as if our partner is speaking another language unto us? Yes. And also, and part of our discussion today, Yvette, you're just joining in. So we were asking earlier when having an open discussion, are you more of a straight shooter? You're going to get direct and straight to the point, or are you going to be more indirect and kind of dance and beat around the bush? You say what? Straight shooter, or are you going to speak indirectly?
I
You
think I
also
know what your bet's going to say.
Pastor Fred, you a straight shooter or you speak indirectly? I know who you are, Pastor Fred. So, all right, Pastor Fred says, all right, in terms of the universal love language, it all depends on the situation. It can be both. As I said, it all depends. Yes, I agree, Pastor. Yeah. It can be both, meaning that it needs to be verbalized or sometimes it doesn't. Correct,
Hmm.
Pastor? Okay, and Yvette says she is definitely a straight shooter.
I
Yes.
knew it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, some
Yeah.
people you can just tell, their demeanor, how they conduct and
Mhm.
handle themselves. You have a pretty good idea of how they address certain situations. So, yes, I would concur that, yeah, I would have thought so as well.
I have a question for everyone who is watching online. And have you ever been in a relationship with someone that doesn't speak the same language as you?
Hmm,
It's not their first language. English is not their first language, or maybe English is not your first language, but you end up somehow in a relationship with that person. It's not their first language. There's
okay.
a lot of couples
Yes.
globally, yeah,
Hmm.
millions of people that have you had to use a Google Translate and learn a new language in order to make it work. But I think there has to be a common denominator.
Has to be. Has to be. And you got to have a lot of patience to try to figure out and get the translation of what's being communicated back and forth. Ooh, can you imagine?
Uh-huh.
Like, what did you say? Hold on, let me translate that. You got to respond back and do the same thing. So yeah, it takes a lot of patience. So Yvette says, let's get down to business. Let's get to the point. Although it does depend on the situation. Yes. In total agreement, my sis. Yes.
Okay.
And no, she has never been in a relationship speaking
Oh,
a different language.
someone
Yeah.
speaking a different
Correct.
language. Wow.
No, I have not either. Have you, Christine?
Mm, no. And
No.
that's one of the reasons. Number one is
Hmm.
the communication barrier.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a huge concern.
that's got to be rough. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge concern. I think that when it comes to, um, like I said, two people speaking the Queen's English, you still have communication issues,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then having an extra layer on top of that, and that goes for international business owners as well. Like I said, the opportunities to translate documents into English, French, or German, you know, then of course that shrinks the barrier, right? That closes the gap. At the same time, there's certain culture norms,
Hmm.
there's certain um, customs, if you will, that you'll need to learn if you do decide to go into a relationship with someone that speaks another language. You should study that culture, whether it
No.
be in business or personal. You should really study that culture.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So one last question for you all. So when it comes to having a discussion, do you listen to hear or do you listen to respond?
Wow, is not that one and the same?
No. Here's why.
What?
Some people like to, they just want to express themselves and monopolize the conversation. And they're not so much in tune to listening to what's actually being said. They just
Mhm.
want to respond and express their opinion on the matter, as opposed to a listener who's just going to listen, dissect,
Mhm.
interpret,
Mhm.
and then eventually may or may not respond. But they're not into the conversation just solely for the purpose of responding. They want to get a better understanding of what it is that that person is trying to relate to them in the communication aspect of it. So that's what I would say is the major difference in that.
Okay.
Some people just want to respond, blur it out, get their point across,
Mhm.
while others are just want to interpret what is being communicated and decipher that relationship. I mean, that communication.
And thanks for that, Rob. I think that one of the telltale signs of someone who really cares about you is the person who takes the time to say, okay, so what I'm hearing is that,
Yes, yes.
and repeating what you've said to make sure that they clearly have that
Yeah.
understanding. Nothing's lost for lost in translation.
And that's so
Hmm.
important, Christine, what you just said. Some people just want to be heard. They don't want you to actually respond. They just want you to hear them. They want you
Okay.
to hear their crying voice. They want a listening ear. That's all,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's not so much about how you respond to it. They just want to be heard. They want,
Acknowledge.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yes, yeah.
To be acknowledged.
That was,
And and there's a lot of that it's teenage communications. If
mm,
parents that have that barrier, and you're talking about barriers in communication, I don't know anything about, well, the easy ones that I was taught, the LOLs, and then there's some acronyms that, yeah, some acronyms, right? Especially
right.
if you're communicating with your teenager, you're communicating with someone who is 30 30 years or less, or you're at 35 and under. right? And they send you a text. That's another huge barrier because you can read something and it's not how they said it, but
Yes.
it's
Yes.
right
Yes.
there.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So we can talk about barriers in language and then communication, but if you are now in the digital world, receiving
Hmm.
a text from your husband or you're receiving a text from a friend, and you see the words there and you can add meat to it or interpret it, you have to pick up the phone and ask, what did you mean by that, kind of thing.
Hmm. Right. Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that's huge when it comes to teenagers as well, because they have a very casual, I would say, demeanor when it comes to communications. Where folks in my generation, when you're writing, it's more formal. Like you make sure that you have your salutations and your thank yous and all that. You close off, you open the
Right.
communication, with a salutation and you close.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's not the way
Yeah,
nowadays.
that's like a thing of the past now. You rarely see that nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh,
All right. So Althea says, listen to respond. When I speak to someone, I need a response. Okay. So yeah, Althea is one that's gonna definitely pull something out of you to respond some kind of way.
you need a response, and
Yes.
that yeah, I'm just looking for a response, and
Yes.
and that response is confirmation that they heard what the lady McCrae was saying, and they acknowledge and they heard. So that's the response that folks need
Yes.
to acknowledge. So speaking about that, I've heard university students, where, oh, that person left me unread. That means that person didn't respond. Like,
Okay.
right? Like Mrs. McCrae is saying, like your wife is saying, Althea is saying, when she speaks, she needs a response. And
Hmm.
I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's automatically I'm thinking about the conversation I overheard where a university student is saying, well, I'm not going to speak to her when I get to campus because, or I'm not going to speak to him when I get to campus because he left me unresponded, unread, right?
Okay.
So that means the person didn't respond. So that means that they not they're not paying attention or slash don't care about what you said. But that's a text message world, different barrier altogether, I think. So I try to, with my diplomatic self, I said, well, maybe they didn't see, maybe they're busy. How long has it been?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
they haven't responded to me, it's been 3 hours. I'm like, calm down.
Mm.
It's been 3 hours. Everything is here and now in this digital world. But have you heard that before? What do you think about that, where you send someone a text and they don't respond? Is that they
That can go many different ways. Maybe they didn't want to respond because how they would have responded to the message, or maybe they just weren't interested in pursuing that conversation. So it could be many variables to that. So
is is that the same as if you were in person and they just walked away?
say it again.
So is that the same scenario where you're face to face with that person? It's not a
Hmm.
text, but is leaving someone unresponded to or not responding to someone's text one in the same with you're in front of them and you ask them a question and they just walk away?
Mm.
Is that the same? Or
Um, it depends on the situation. I mean, if it's a disagreement on something, then yes, it can be taken in that light. But if it's just a general conversation where they didn't respond back to the text, like you said, maybe they got busy, they didn't see it, or something to that effect. But when you're in your someone's face and someone's presence and they don't respond, then yeah, that's something different there. That's I don't want to be bothered. Yeah.
so in ways that can hold you back in life, depending on, again, the severity of the situation. I think the biggest the biggest I don't know, the biggest impact, the biggest impact that this has on what will hold you back
Hmm.
is time. A lot of people, I won't say waste time, but spend time in figuring out why that person didn't respond to me. Why is that person, or why did they respond to me that way? Especially if there's the spouse is seems like they're speaking a different language and they're not getting you, like you said, and the Althea said to be acknowledged. When you're not acknowledged and it's frustrating, that energy, that negative energy, is really, really, really toxic and a huge time waster. Like days, I would dare say months, depending on how severe the situation is. So it's a very important thing to be surrounded and be connected with someone who hears you,
Hmm.
who you can communicate with. It it'll save you a lot of time. It'll save you productive time. It'll save you a
Yes.
lot of time because you spend time, and it will hold you back. And I don't know if anyone has a you know an amen on a time when someone just for some reason they moved away, or someone wasn't on your life no more. School ended, the bell rang, and it was end of the semester, and you just found yourself progressing. That person is no longer in your life, that you don't need to waste time about whether or not they understood you or didn't understand you or heard you. And all of a sudden, you're progressing. Does anybody have yeah, you've experienced that?
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It happens. It happens. You know, that's a part of life. We live, we learn, and we move on.
So when there is a barrier in your partner, especially your business partner, will hold you back. And sometimes they'll shave years off your life or your progress. That's a telltale sign. If you're more progressive outside of that, outside of that person's presence, you're more progressive, then that's a telltale sign.
It is.
Um,
It is.
yeah, uh, of the communication. Um, I'm not sure how that would go with. Well, maybe it's the same with business partners, but it's hard to sever business partnerships, especially when finances are entwined. Do you think?
Um, it can be rather difficult, uncomfortable, um, lead to a lot of arguments, disagreements,
Mm,
and how the division or separation should take place, or the dissolvement of the business.
yeah.
In feelings and emotions can get involved, I should say.
Mhm,
And so, yeah, you just have to make sure two two calmer heads are in place
mhm,
when you have that discussion, and you don't let it get to a point where emotions are the fuel to the fire, and it's not productive. It's just a bunch of shouting back and forth, and
okay.
a lot of words are being said that cannot be taken back, like we said earlier, and
Hmm.
it leads to a bad situation. So try to avoid that just by having calm heads, and just write out what it is that you want to do in the dissolution, or what terms we can agree upon. Put that in
Okay.
writing, and then let's agree upon it that way, so we don't have any any more friction within the business relationship, I would say.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
good. That's good. That's
Mm.
good. So I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation. I learned
Yes.
something about, yeah, um, the amount of energy that you spend when in a relationship, and you have a barrier there. If you have a partner that speaks a different language. I love what you spoke about, Rob. You said that universal language of love, you don't have to talk.
Yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. Never thought about it that way until you made that comment. But when you think about it, yeah, I can see it. Whereas the love can be felt without it being expressed verbally. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Hmm.
let's look for those cues too, right? We're going into September, last 4 months of 2025.
Wow, can you believe it?
Yeah, yeah.
Already?
We
Yes, yes, yes.
spoke a lot about things that'll hold you back, and this is something that'll hold you back mentally and emotionally.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Hmm. So choose the right partner, and when
Mm,
you have the right partner, it
it does. It does.
flows quite nicely.
Mm, all working together as one and pulling in the same direction. So yes,
Oh my
that is
goodness.
so much easier. All
Mm.
right. So yes, we are well over time. So yes, we're going to close things out for this evening. But we want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of the discussion here on another edition of What's Holding You Back. So, on behalf of Christine Allen from Clear Ambitions, my name is Rob McCray from the Business Building Network. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channels as of yet, we want to encourage you to do so. Christine's YouTube channel is Clear Ambition, and my YouTube channel is Rob McCray Networking. So, once again, thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of What's Holding You Back.
We'll see you next week. Enjoy it.
You gotta fly like an eagle and go high. But what's holding you back? Holding you back from touching the sky. Oh, holding you back. You finally gotta reach for the sky. I was born to succeed, not to be a spoken or real. Told myself there's more to this than just waking up when I feel. So I made a commitment to turn my earnings up. Couldn't see myself as an employee that still couldn't. Looked in the mirror, saw a spark in my eye. Knew I had to hustle and stop living a lie. I packed my dreams in a suitcase, took the first train. I'm headed for the horizon where success is no